What's up, everybody? This is Kenny Cummins here of Chilling with Kenny C, right here on TMVCafe.com, bringing you entertainment to your ears. Now, y'all know I usually be interviewing musicians and wrestlers on here, but I like to switch things up every now and then. So joining me at this time is a brilliant artist and illustrator right here in Kentucky. He's been on the pen, very creative, very unique individual. He goes by the name of Justin Stewart or Justin 3000. No relations to Andre 3000 whatsoever. But Justin is with me right now. How's it going, man?
It's going great, man. Thank you, Kenny, so much. It was a wonderful introduction, man. I'm
Appreciate
glad to be
you.
here.
Yeah, man. So Justin and I know each other for a couple of years. It seemed like mostly through the hip hop scene. We all have mutual friends in the scene, and I interview a fellow illustrator by the name of Bryce, aka B Mad. Shout out to him,
Yep. Shout
fellow
out, Bryce.
talent, talented individual as well. So this is a unique interview for me because I get to learn from your about your craft and what
hmm
you've been working on. So talk to me as far as how did you get started into that artist slash illustrator work? How did it start off for you?
Oh man, well, I just sort of never stopped drawing as a kid. I drew and doodled, all in my notebooks and stuff in school, and then that carried with me to college where I was in a band, so I was drawing all of our band's flyers and stuff. Anytime we would play a show, excuse me, we'd need flyers made up, so I would always draw those, paste those up. And I've always been into comics for as long as I can remember. So I've always thought, like the beauty of comics with the art and the writing and the balloons and the design and the coloring and everything. It really attracted me from a young age, and I just kept with it all through college. And then once I got out of college, I just started trying to get my foot in the door at other places, just doing freelance gigs here and there. So yeah, it's sort of a thing that's always been with me.
All right. So you said you literally been drawing since you was young, very young age.
Yeah,
So
I dipped in and out, sometimes where, you like typical artist stuff, you have those crises where you're like, is this really what I need to be doing kind of stuff, and you take a break for a little bit. But yeah, it's something that's always been there.
so what was the moment that you looked at? What was the breakthrough, I should say, that made you be like, you know what, this is something I could really do? What was that moment? Whether it was an art piece, whether it's maybe a book that you was working on, maybe a art for a customer. What was that moment that you looked at yourself and say, you know what, this is something that I could really, really do?
I'll tell you, it was 2005, and I was actually I was coloring a story for a buddy of mine named Jim Mahfood, and something with looking at his page layouts and coloring that and then sending it off to him. And he's a dude that I admired, and I got this gig working with him. And he emailed me back straight away, and he was like, yeah, man, this looks good. Keep doing this, keep doing what you're doing. And that sort of solidified, like, oh snap, okay, yeah, I can probably do this. And and then since then I've colored a bunch of other stuff. And then as far as customers go, it's really the I don't know, it's the next piece that makes me want to that makes me want to get excited. um and I don't know if that answers the question. I'm a bit nervous.
It's all good, man. So yeah, I'm always fond of supporting locally talented people, with music and with wrestling and with other genres, art, all forms of art. And it
Yeah,
was
wrestling
definitely,
wrestling is
yeah.
an art form. Wrestling is an
Oh
art
yeah.
form.
Yeah. I literally had a conversation with a longtime friend about it just yesterday. And people call it a sport, people call it theater. It's an art form. It's a physical art form, loud art form, loudmouth art form, but it is an art form
Yep.
nonetheless. And you know what makes wrestling unique, at least to me, as someone that's been watching it since the 90s, is that there is no director. There is no one to say cut. You get
Yeah.
one take, you get one shot to cut the promo. You get one shot to compete in a match, to tell a story.
It's a
These,
performance,
yeah, it's
you
a
know,
performance
and
art.
they're expressing themselves, right, with the
Yeah,
characters and the heels and the faces, and it's like it's storytelling, man. It's
yeah,
what it's all about.
yeah. It's storytelling to its core, and I think that's what made wrestling the juggernaut that it is today.
Yeah,
And things have changed, the characters have changed. A lot of people have come and go. It is a good time to be a wrestling fan with so many options than what it was back in the 80s and the 90s. And people tend to have a problem with it. Like, I thought the more the merrier, which means more
mm,
people can get opportunities, more jobs for people, and more opportunities for
yeah.
people that may not necessarily consider going into the bigger companies per se. It is a great time to be a wrestling fan. I try to watch it all, and as you could tell from my Facebook timeline, I go to a lot of shows.
Yeah, you do.
I travel. I feel like a maniac going to these shows, but I love it. It is a drug. It's something that I enjoy, and I've made a lot of good friends along the way. I've made a lot of friends.
Yeah, and
People,
I didn't really know how much like wrestling and comics, sort of the Venn diagrams of those cross way more than I thought they ever would. Because every wrestler that I've ever met has been into comics, been into comic books of some form or another. Uh, because it's exactly what they're doing. It's good guys and bad guys, right? It's the heroes and
yeah,
villains, and at the same time, like it's a portable, cool medium. Like they can take a trade paperback with them on the plane and read it. You know, comics are easily they're you can find them at any shop in any city. You know, so I didn't know that those crossed until a couple 2 3 years ago.
oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely feels like the comic aspect is there. Like we all grew up watching these cartoon characters, and this is long before they became movie franchises. It seems like long before they became box office success. And just seeing these characters, come to light the way they are today, man, it's incredible. And everybody gets inspiration for somewhere. Art, it could be something in the past, it could be something in the present. You all get an inspiration. So with that being
Mm-hmm.
said, Justin, what inspires you to keep going with the art, whether it's some previous work that you've done, something that you have in the works? What keeps you going doing the art and illustrated work that you do?
It's it's being able to see a definitive upgrade and change from years past. Like this is sort of like a five-tiered answer, but
Yeah,
like it's being able to see stuff that I did back in the day and be like, oh, that's garbage. I would do it so much better now, and knowing having the confidence of being like, yeah, I absolutely would. I would absolutely body that thing. Uh, and then second is the homies, having a good solid art crew. Um, or a good solid crew of people that you can bounce ideas off of and show stuff to and talk about and get excited about things, and who are in it with you, having a good solid folks to run with is super important. Um, and then knowing that I get to sort of put on the page whatever I want. That's the beauty of this. I can draw whatever I want on any given day, and that's something that gets me excited and gets me amped. It's like it's completely open. It's a literal blank page. You know.
Very, very solid points, especially the fact that this is all coming from you. You are a one man army as
Mm-hmm.
far as putting together the work that you put on. You, Bryce, many others, um, and I've seen you, you at the conventions, man, having your own booths with
Yeah.
all of your art that's on display. Um, I want to get into that. How would you describe the experience, whether it's a Lexington Comic Con or whether it's a Richmond Comic Con? How would you
Mm-hmm.
describe the experience having your own booth, having all this art that people can take a peek at? How would you describe that experience?
Oh man, it's great. It's and it's a job. Um, but it's great to sit there and stand behind your table and be able to talk to people about, because everybody's there for pretty much the same reason. We're all nerds about something. So it's a super interesting uh, thing for people to come to the table and you explain what, they'll pick up the book and flip through it and ask about it, and I'll give them the pitch. And then we'll start to talk, and we'll, trying to get a dialogue. And like that's a kind of a rare thing these days, is to have an actual dialogue, actual conversation with someone that you don't really know. So, essentially a stranger. They just sort of came up to the table looking for something new, maybe. Um, but it's just a really fun feeling to be able to stand there with your stuff and be proud of it and be like, absolutely, and letting people flip through it and talk to them about it and seeing what they're into. So yeah, the experience of meeting new people and old friends too, that come up to the table that you only see at conventions. We all have those, right?
Yeah.
uh so it's yeah, it gets me excited. It's like, it again, it fuels me.
So I've been to small conventions. I've been to large conventions. I was at GalaxyCon this past weekend at my old stomping grounds at Columbus, Ohio. And for people that may not know, that convention used to be at Louisville, Kentucky up until 2019. This was before the pandemic, obviously.
Yeah.
So when they part ways with the Louisville Convention Center, they moved it to Columbus. So I've been going there, and that's the closest one, that's in Kentucky. Closest one, at least from where I'm at. It's about
Mhm.
3 hour drive. So man, it is as close to Comic Con in San Diego you're going to get. It is, first off, the Columbus Convention Center, ginormous.
It is.
I'm it is a
Yeah,
large.
me and the
Yeah,
family went there over the weekend on Saturday, just to go as attendees. I didn't have a booth or anything, but yeah, that place was hopping.
yeah. It is a huge convention. And the funny thing is I lived in Columbus for 4 years, but I was back in the 90s and 2000s. So when I was young, like I was a young
Yeah,
kid at the time. I was like, I didn't have my house or anything.
right.
I didn't know too much of it. But man, Columbus, man, they got a good one in GalaxyCon, and I'm a little bit in my feelings over the Louisville folks for letting it slip away, because now Columbus, they got something that they can enjoy.
Yep.
So that's, and it happens early December, usually the first weekend of December. They're coming back to the convention next year, so the 5th through the 7th, 2025. For those that's curious, it is worth the place. I've met Eddie Hudson. I
Yep.
met the Psychcast, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. I'm gonna need James Bode and Dule Hill to be there next year. I need if you're gonna get the Psychcast, you gotta get those two too. I'm just saying. I appreciate Tim, I appreciate Christian, and I appreciate Maggie. Appreciate them dearly. Like if you're gonna get the Psychcast, you gotta get those two guys in there too.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox on that. And I met Will Al Yankovic, bro. I met this dude. Like we all grew up listening to all the parody songs.
Yep.
And if you had a hit song back in the day, and he did a parody of your song, you had a hit song.
Yep.
I tell people like it is a badge of honor, and
It is,
just
and you get paid twice, right?
yeah, like you get paid twice, man. Like yeah, like I mean, if Will Al would have took a parody of your songs, like, and it's not like his parodies is intent to disrespect the artist. It's just just putting his own spin on it.
Hmm.
He's inspired. So, dude, he was the hair to changed a bit. Got the gray hair. No,
Yeah.
but he still got that aura about him. He still got the color shirts, and
Hmm.
he still got that smile, man. Like that's all I needed. I need
Yep.
just the smile and the color shirts. That's when I know that is the real Al Yankovic. I
Yep.
felt like a kid
Yep.
when I met him for the very
That's awesome.
first time. So that was quite the experience. So
That's awesome.
now I wanted to ask you a question about one of the books that I took a peek at, and I don't know the name of the book, but
Hmm.
I know that it featured like all the cities of Kentucky, all the
Yes.
cities. These are real cities. I have to look them up. I even
Yep.
Google like the actual name of the cities. And Kentucky, like I knew Kentucky was as country as it gets, but man, do they have some country-esque names for
Yeah. Here, one
cities.
sec. One sec. I
Okay,
got you.
so yeah, he knows what I'm talking about. He's about
You
to,
talking about this book, Kentucky
yeah,
Kaiju?
the
Yeah.
Kaiju book. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the whole process of putting that book together and finding all these cities, man. Talk about how that book came about.
Oh man, it was just something that again, I was looking for a project to do with homies. My friends Trisina Bowling and Sean Pryor, specifically. I was thinking, I'm like, man, we should, again, there's strength in numbers. So I'm like, we should do something. And I remember seeing uh, it was a poster in the Big Hero 6 movie, and it said Kentucky Kaiju. And I was like, that sounds real good. And so my brain just never let go of those two words. And I was like, man, there's something there. There's something there. And so my wife, who's a middle school librarian, she brought home all these books that she was going to toss one time, and in it was a field guide to birds. And I was like, wait a minute, okay, that's something. And so we took the concept of a field guide and applied it to made up giant monsters that roam the bluegrass. So all of we so every page is a spread. So you have the monster on the right side, and then you
Yeah.
have where they're from and what they eat, and all of how much they weigh, and every city where they're from is a real place in Kentucky. And we use the history and mythology of the towns to shape what monster lived there. So each town has its own like little mini Godzilla.
Wow, bro, that's a lot of digging. That's a lot of research that you have to do.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Um,
shout out to Sean Pryor, the writer. He's the one that started Googling, and we had a Google Doc of just all the craziest sounding names of actual places in Kentucky, and we would just pick and choose. And then we would do a little bit more research on each of those.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's wild stuff, man. Yeah, wild stuff.
So out of all the city names that's out there, what's the most odd name that's stood out to you the most? The most odd name for a Kentucky city that's featured in the book.
Well, I'll go with this one right here. Lamacus is Mud Lick,
Mutlick. There
Kentucky.
we go. Yeah, when I was at Richmond Connor and when I saw that name Mutlick, I'm like, that is the most Kentuckiest name of a city I've ever seen. Like,
Yep,
I mean, it's probably one of those small cities, but still, it's Mud Lick.
Mud Lick.
I mean,
You know,
I
that's
mean,
that's
yeah.
when you got nothing else. When you absolutely have nothing else that you could possibly name a town.
That is insane, man. Like Kentucky, man. Like we got good people in Kentucky, man, but we got some of the most I'm convinced we got some of the most odd names for cities, you
Hmm.
know.
Oh yeah.
Maybe Tennessee, maybe Georgia, maybe the southern cities have
Hmm.
similar names, but man, Mud Lick, Kentucky, bro, like, yeah, that's go buy that book, not just because of Mud Lick, but you get all the cities in this
Yep.
Commonwealth are on there. And check out all of his Justin3000.com, I believe.
That is
Uh
it.
so that's all the info. You can get more info on Justin and all of his work. And you got any new stuff that you're working on for 2025?
I'm working on, well, the second issue of my comic book Bleed Leaders will debut in March at the Lexington Comic and Toy Convention. So it's the second issue in a two-issue miniseries. So I'll have issues 1 and 2, and it's the full complete story. So that's what's coming soon. Other than that, it's just random client stuff that I can't talk about that I had to sign away. Got to shush on
Yeah,
some stuff. So
it's understandable. But what
yeah,
we do know, he just put it out there. He will be at Lexington Comic Con in 2025 at the Central Bank Center. It used to be a 3-day convention. Now it's 4 days. They got a variety of guests already confirmed. They got more guests to be named in the next few months. So get your tickets at LexingtonComicCon.com. And yes, it's cool to, the celebrities and all everyone else that's gonna be there, all the panels and the Q&As and photo ops. That's cool. I'm guilty of that. I go to these places.
sure.
Uh but please, you got any time? Go check out the vendors. Go check out all sorts of vendors, shirts, food, um, paint, art, costumes. I mean, bruh, they got all, I'm convinced they got everything.
Yep.
That
And
they got,
everything, yeah, everything that you're into started with an artist.
yeah, comic books. I mean, you can't have a comic convention
Yep.
without vendors with comic books, old and new, and original content as well. So go check out Lexington Comic Con, March 2025. LexingtonComicCon.com. You can get the tickets. Justin3000.com is for more info on Justin and his artwork. Thank you so much for your time, Justin, for joining me. Props to you. Props to all the artists, the illustrators here in Kentucky. There's a lot of people that I may not know of, but I'm pretty sure I'll cross paths with in the future. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, shout out to everybody that's doing their thing in that field of work. Continue success and everything. And yeah, I'll definitely will see you in Comic Con. If I don't see you between now and then, I'll definitely see you in Comic Con. I'll
Yeah,
definitely will be there. So,
awesome. And
uh,
thanks so much again, Kenny. I really appreciate this. This was a blast.
I enjoyed chatting with you, man. You enjoy your evening, you enjoy your weekend, and happy holidays, man.
Hey, same to you, man. We'll holler at you
All right,
later on.
all right. You have a good night. All right.